Have you ever sat in that heavy silence at a family dinner here on Women's Life Stories? We retell those moments honest, everyday, sometimes controversial. Every story is a mirror. Subscribe, join the conversation, and maybe find a little healing. The banging starts in the middle of my chamomile tea, a fist on wood, a suitcase scraping concrete. A woman's voice on speaker stretched and shrill in the stairwell. Your crazy mother won't let us in. We're on the stairs with the kids and suitcases. I set the cup down and watched the steam bead the window pane above my sink. Jackson Heights hums below a siren somewhere on Roosevelt, the smell of someone's fried onions drifting through the vent. The stair light outside my door flickers the way it always does when it is humid. The peephole wobbles in its brass ring. Another bang. A child begins to cry, then another. I press my palm just above the soft bandage under my nightgown and breathe through the dull pull in my side. 5 weeks since the gallbladder, 5 weeks of gingerly lowering myself into chairs, counting pills, letting the kettle whistle instead of running to it. Mom, Mark calls, breathless. Mom, open up. The old key scratches my lock. Metal against metal, a hopeful rattle. Then the solid catch of the deadbolt. I changed it 3 weeks ago, I told him. I told both of them. A green dress flashes through the peephole as Amber shifts her weight phone still held out like a badge. Brown hair sprayed smooth. Lipstick set. She has the same look she wore when she came last time with a measuring tape. That day she opened my cabinets and said, "We'll need to make space," and then smiled like she was doing me a favor. "Mrs. Quinn," she calls syrup poured over sandpaper. "We drove 8 hours. The kids are exhausted." I see them in the fisheye glass. Ava on the third step with her chin on her knees. Jack and Lily press shoulder to shoulder, their backpacks up front as shields. Theo, too small for this staircase, has a hand on the metal railing and the other rubbing his eyes. Stickers on the suitcases, dinosaurs, a glitter star. The stairlight pops, goes dark, hums back. I put my fingers on the deadbolt. The skin there feels cooler than the rest of the door. My teacup breathes its little ghost beside the sink. "Let us in or I'm calling the police," Amber says. "This is elder neglect. We have minors here." "Amber," Mark says softly, "don't." I step away from the door and open the drawer by the fridge, because I need to hold proof of the past in my hands to stand up in the present. The manila envelope sits where I left it, fat with copies. The bank withdrawal slip in my handwriting. 5,000 in black ink. Mark at my table years ago tie loosened saying, "Next month, Mom." The month stacked. Next. A little stack of blue receipts for a dollhouse and a Lego spaceship and 4 pairs of sneakers during one back-to-school weekend because they had grown all at once. And Amber said, "You know how kids are." A faded party store ribbon still curled at the end, taped to the last Christmas bag like I might use it again. The kettle knocks softly as the hot plate cools. My neighbor's TV mutters through the wall and then clicks off. I remember the last time they let themselves in. Mark with the old key and that smile that says, "This is fine." Amber with the measuring tape clicking and dragging, opening my refrigerator and moving the eggs so she could see the shelves. She slid my framed photo of Harold aside so her arm could reach the corner of the dresser. Mark pulled papers from his pocket and kept his finger over the line that mattered while he said, "It's just temporary authorization, Mom, in case we need to make decisions." The line did not read "in case." It read "power of." I close the drawer and go back to the door. The stairwell smells faintly of bleach and old paint. Someone opens a window on a lower floor, and the air slips in around the edges of the jamb. The kids have stopped crying. That is worse. Quiet settles like a balancing act. "Mom," Mark says. I can tell he is leaning his forehead against the door. He did that as a boy when he was sorry and did not know how to fix it. "Please let me in. We can talk." The lock stares at me. Behind me, the patchwork quilt Harold and I made one winter is folded over the back of the sofa. He cut squares from his flannel shirts. My stitches got smaller row by row. I used to fall asleep there with the TV murmuring and wake with it on the floor heavy and warm and smelling faintly of the cedar chest. She changed the locks without telling anyone. Amber says louder now that she has an audience. There is always an audience if you make enough noise. She's been acting paranoid since the surgery. I reach for the peephole again. The fisheye circle shows a little more this time. Mark's tie is crooked. Sweat has flattened his hair to his forehead. Amber's eyebrows are set in that perfect arc that reads patient to strangers and warning to those who know her. Ava's hand drifts toward her brother's and then retreats, as if it has been trained not to need. "I'm not paranoid, Amber," I say loud enough for the door to carry me. "I'm tired. I told you to wait." There is a beat where it is only our breathing and the distant hiss of traffic. The light flickers, hard stays on. Theo hiccups. "You said after you recovered," Amber says. "You look fine." Recovery is not a look. Recovery is the way my bones consider each stair, the way my body pulls tight where it used to loosen, the calendar with little X's that say took the walk and little blanks that say not today. "We already arranged everything," she adds. Her voice gets smooth again. "We handed our place over to tenants. We can't turn back now." There it is, not a project, not a promotion, arranged, handed over. The word rubs like a rough seam against the skin of my thoughts. I think of the air mattress she suggested, the cold vinyl squeal when you shift, the way my back would protest, the idea of my bed in the living room, the 4 children sleeping where I sit to read Amber and Mark in my bedroom, with the door shut, so they can have privacy in a space Harold painted the color of eggshell because we thought it would make mornings brighter. This is not about beds. This is about a boundary you cannot see until someone tries to step over it. "I brought the cake for Chloe's party while you were still in the hospital," Amber says. She does not remember that it was Lily's birthday, not Chloe, because names blur when they are not yours to hold. I helped too. I look at the clock on the stove. 2 hours. The banging started at the end of the second hour of my show. It has been 2 hours of my name repeated and my door tested and my apartment imagined as a staging area for someone else's plan. A footstep lower on the stairs, a whisper. A neighbor, maybe. The building listens. It has seen so much yelling over the years that it knows when a voice will split and when it will hold. "Mom," Mark says again, soft this time, "just say something." I think of the doctor's hand on my shoulder that morning, the way he said 6 weeks no lifting, and the way I embarrassed myself by crying in the little cubicle because I could not even lift my own grocery bags for a while. I think of Ruth from 4B, bringing a thermos of chicken soup and arranging my pills in the organizer because my fingers were clumsy. I think of Amber's measuring tape against my bookshelf like my books would behave better if they were 6 inches to the left. I let my knuckles rest on the wood. The grain under my skin is smooth where hands have found it again and again. I feel the bolt through the door like a muscle tensing. I speak through the inch of distance we have always pretended was thinner than it is. "I hear you, Mark," I say. I do. The stair light hums. The kids shift their weight. Amber exhales in a sharp line. My teacup has gone cool. I put my hand on the deadbolt. I do not turn it. "Mom," he says, a whisper against the paint. "Please just talk to me." I stand there with my palm on the metal and the quilt behind me, and the smell of chamomile fading into the heavier dullness of the hallway, and I keep my fingers still. The stairwell shifts as if the building takes a breath. A door on 2 creaks. Someone says hush, then a careful step. The light above my landing buzzes and steadies. I keep my palm on the deadbolt. It feels sure under my fingers. "Mrs. Quinn," Amber says brighter than before. "We just need to get the kids settled and talk like adults." A new voice answers from below. It rolls up the stairwell with the sound of a woman who has seen this floor for 30 years and knows every echo. Talk like adults usually means you listen first. "Ruth," Mark says, relief and dread braided in one word. Ruth climbs into view, one hand on the rail, silver hair tucked behind her ears, a cotton blouse the color of old robin's eggs. Her eyes tip up to my peephole, and I nod a blink of brass and dark. "Evening, Amber," Ruth says. "Evening, Mark." She looks at the children before she looks at the adults. "Hello, Ava. Hello, Jack, Lily, and this must be Theo." Theo lifts 2 fingers, then puts them back in his mouth. "We have been out here for 2 hours, Amber says. Because your neighbor changed her locks without telling anyone and refuses to let her family in. She is unwell after surgery and she is being paranoid. We are worried." Ruth rests a hip against the opposite wall and folds her hands over the railing. "She told me she changed her locks after you came in with a measuring tape and started opening her drawers." Amber smiles like someone on daytime TV. "We were preparing. We want the children to be comfortable. We can bring in a softer sofa. The table in there is fragile. She could use a new mattress. The bedroom set in the living room will not work with little ones. It is not your living room, Ruth says. A head pops over the ground floor landing. Mr. Whitaker holds a leash in one hand and his old beagle in the other. The dog sniffs the air and sneezes. Everything all right up there? Fine, Amber says. Not fine, Ruth says at the same time. She is keeping us out. Amber continues louder for the crowd that does not need to be invited. We drove from Pennsylvania. We told her we were coming. There are children here. This is not safe. You told her you were coming, Ruth says. She told you she needed to recover. Those are different verbs. Ma'am, Mr. Whitaker says up the stairwell. Do the little ones need a bathroom break? We can use my place if need be. Amber tilts her chin. We will manage when we are inside. A shoe taps from the second floor opposite. Mrs. Patel edges out and her slippers palms pressed to her thighs. She does not talk. She watches. Mom, Mark says, please, just 5 minutes. I touch the bandage under my nightgown and count my inhale. I picture the quilt on my sofa and the line where we stitch the first crooked seam. That steadies me more than the metal under my hand. I will not open the door, Mark, I say. The stairwell makes my voice bigger than it feels inside my chest. Not tonight. Amber lowers her voice for a moment and the sugar burns off. We already handed our place to tenants, she says. The lease is signed. We cannot go back. We did this for Mark's work. It is important. Work, Ruth repeats. She tastes the word like it might be off and sets it on the windowsill. Funny, my sister's friend handles scheduling at his firm. She said there is no special project. What there is a sublet. $1,500 a month for a furnished place during summer. Amber blinks. The makeup on her lids does not move. That is private information. It is important information, Ruth says. It means this is not about work. It is about profit. And about parking 4 children on the other side of a surgery without permission. Mark shifts his weight and stares at the carpet that has been there since the first bush. Ruth, please. It is not your job to police my family, Amber snaps. It became my job when you brought the whole show into a shared stairwell, Ruth says. You made it the building's business when you started yelling about police and neglect. I will call them, Amber says. She holds up her phone like a cross. You are endangering minors by refusing entry. I will say there is an elderly woman acting unstable in the presence of children. Stop it, Mark whispers. He puts a hand on her arm and she shakes it off. She changed the locks, Amber says over him. She will not behave reasonably. We need to take control for a little while so decisions can be made, that is all. The words take me back to the paper he slid toward me, the line he covered with his finger. Power of, not in case. Not only if needed, power. That word hums under my tongue like a live wire. I am reasonable, I say. Reason says 4 children cannot sleep in a 1-bedroom with a woman who cannot lift a grocery bag. You always watch them, Amber says. You love them. That is what grandmas do. There is a quiet that feels like a glass about to crack. Ava looks at her mother. Her mouth narrows. Her eyes do not. We are not talking about love, Ruth says very low. We are talking about space and choice and timetables that were decided without the person who lives behind that door. The beagle yawns. The stairlight flickers again and holds. Sweat beads on Mark's temple and runs into his sideburn. He takes his phone from his pocket and turns it over like a nervous habit. His tie has a stain near the knot. Amber, he says, let us slow down. We slowed down for weeks while she took pills and rested, Amber says. She looks fine. She can sit in the living room. We need the bedroom. We need privacy. We will bring our own food. We will do our own laundry. She will not have to lift a finger. She can sleep on an air mattress near the window. Some grandmas prefer to be in the heart of the house. It makes them feel useful. Ruth makes a sound that is not a word. It is the sound a kettle makes when it feels a boil rising. Useful is not the same as respected, she says. Mrs. Patel clears her throat. If there is a question of safety, I will call the precinct myself. For the lady behind the door, not you. Amber adjusts her hair, smooths the side with her palm, and smiles again for the room. We do not need neighbors taking sides. We want to protect family. That is why we are here. You are here because you rented your own place, Ruth says not unkindly, and because you assumed Evelyn would fold. A flicker of something like surprise crosses Amber's face. It has gone so fast I could have imagined it. She strokes Theo's head. He leans into her, heavy with travel and no bed. Lily needs water, Ava says. Her voice is correct like a teacher. She has a headache. Ruth reaches into her tote and pulls out a small bottle. She passes it without asking Amber. Lily latches on. Thank you, Ava says. We did not stop because Mom said we had to make good time. Amber straightens. Ava! It is fine to drink water, Ruth says. It is fine to sit. It is fine to wait when someone says wait. I'm calling Kyle, Amber says. The name lands like a nail. He knows the law. He can explain our rights. He is family. He will help. Mark rubs his forehead. Amber, please. We need to do this correctly, she says. For the children. Mr. Whitaker whistles under his breath. The beagle looks up and thumps its tail once on the stair. If Kyle the lawman tries to intimidate a 71-year-old woman in her own building, I will be very interested to hear how the bar enjoys that call, he says. Amber laughs a short, bright sound that means she does not find it funny. Everyone can calm down. We will handle this. She turns away so her hair swings like a curtain and taps at her phone. The light in the stairwell hums. A truck brakes on the street outside and the squeal threads up through the old boards. The building is sweating with us. Mom, Mark says softer. Do you need anything? Water? A chair by the door? Anything? I have a chair, I say. I have water. He nods at nothing. He tucks his phone back in his pocket. He looks at his children and then at the wood in front of his nose. He looks like the boy who nailed together a crooked birdhouse and would not let me help him sand it because he wanted to learn the feel of the tool himself. I can see the birdhouse in my head as clear as if it still hung in the slice of backyard we used to have. A robin built there once, 2 eggs like blue marbles. Ava lifts her chin and addresses the door. Grandma, can I use the bathroom, please? I swallow around the ache that rises behind my tongue. Ask your father to take you to Mr. Whitaker's, I say. He offered. Thank you, she says. She does not look at her mother before she starts down. Jack follows holding his backpack to his chest. Their feet are quiet. Lily leans into the wall with the bottle against her cheek. Theo rubs his eyes with the heel of his hand until the skin blooms pink. Do you hear yourself? Amber says to Ruth while the children pass. You are encouraging her to refuse entry to her own grandchildren. This is cruel. What is cruel is staging a scene to force a hand, Ruth says. What is cruel is telling children they are going to grandma's as if it is a vacation when it is a plan to save on your rent. The stairwell holds the sentence like a bowl. Amber takes a breath and picks each word with care. We did what we had to do. Mark closes his eyes for a moment. He presses his fingers into the bridge of his nose. He looks older than he did yesterday. He looks like someone standing between 2 doors that both lead to rooms he does not want to enter. Mom, he says, please do not think I meant to hurt you. I think you did not think, I say. He nods because there is nothing safe to put after that. The building door downstairs opens. It does not slam. It is the gentle, heavy sound of something with weight coming to rest. Shoes climb, leather on stone. The rhythm is even. A clean cologne reaches us before the man does something sharp that tries to smell like citrus and ends closer to floor polish. A face appears on the first landing. Kyle Morton looks the way he always looks at holidays, like a glossy magazine sent to the wrong address. Crisp shirt. Watch that catches the light. Case in his hand. He smiles up at the knot of us like a host arriving late to his own party. Where is the emergency, he says. He plants his feet on my landing and sets the case on the step. He flips the silver latches. The clicks ring against the concrete and hang there. Kyle looks up at me with that smile that sells water as if it is wine. He does not ask to come in. He looks at the door as if it is a witness that will break under the right tone. Aunt Evelyn, he says as if the word belongs in his mouth. You there, ma'am. I let the window above the door open a little more. Night air slides across my face. It smells like wet concrete and somebody's laundry softener. I am here, I say. Great, Kyle says. He taps a pen against a legal pad. The sound is light and quick. We are all worried about you. You changed locks. You are refusing entry to immediate family with minor children present. Neighbors report you have been withdrawn and suspicious since a medical procedure. These can be signs of cognitive decline. Nobody wants that to go unaddressed. You're not a doctor, Ruth says. Kyle does not look at her. He writes something and keeps his tone as smooth as his tie. I am a concerned relative with legal expertise. We can avoid trouble if we cooperate. Let us make a short plan so these kids can be safe inside. Let us agree that Mark and Amber can make temporary decisions about the apartment until this is sorted. Power of attorney by STAIRWELL, Mr. Whitaker says. His beagle sneezes again. Amber steps closer to the door and turns her face up toward my voice. Evelyn, he is trying to help. We all are. Let us in and we can calm everyone down. I watch the angle of Mark's shoulders. They are lifted as if he's bracing for a blow. He looks smaller on this landing than he did at my kitchen table the day he promised me next month. He keeps his eyes on the old green runner that crawls up the stairs. He looks like the boy who could not meet my gaze when he broke the good plate. Tell me something, Kyle, Ruth says. When did you learn there was a furnished sublet and not a project at the firm? Amber's neck snaps a fraction. She schools it. Kyle clicks his pen twice. This is not about a lease, he says. This is about minors on a stairwell and an elderly person making unsafe judgments. It is about a lease, Ruth says. And about the plan to move a 71-year-old woman to the living room floor on an air mattress so 2 adults could have privacy in a bedroom that is not theirs. Kyle finally looks at Ruth. He arranges his features into patience. Ma'am, you are escalating. She is describing, Mrs. Patel says. You do not have to like the description. Mark lifts his head. The plea on his face is raw. Kyle, enough with the vocabulary. There are kids here. Exactly, Amber says, turning on the concern again. She gestures to Ava and Jack hiking back up from the bathroom with Mr. Whitaker behind them. They are exhausted. They need a bed. I need to ask Aunt Evelyn a few questions, Kyle says. Very simple. To establish capacity. What day is it, ma'am? Do you know the date? It is Thursday, I say. You know what year it is. I can tell by your watch. A tiny smile touches the corners of Ruth's mouth. Kyle does not smile. He makes a note. Can you tell me the president? He asks. Can you tell me why you are here as a lawyer and not as a cousin? I ask. He glances at Amber. She gives him the permission nod. He tries to sound kind. We all care. We all want what is best for you. If you refused entry because you are confused or fearful, then a judge might decide you need assistance. That would be unfortunate. We can keep it in the family and handle it with love. He slows down on love. He looks at the door like the word might lift the bolt. Love does not require an air mattress, Ruth says. Amber's smile thins. Ruth, you're not family. I am her neighbor, Ruth says, which means I saw who brought soup and who brought measuring tape. The quiet after that sits heavy. Enough, Amber says. She looks up at me. The gloss on her mouth catches the stairlight. Evelyn, you are making this harder than it needs to be. We already set up our place with tenants. We cannot unring that bell. We will bring the kids in. We will be tidy. You will hardly notice us. We will take care of you. You will not be alone at night. You can trust me. My hand finds the quilt on the sofa behind me. The stitches under my fingers are a little uneven where I started. They get smaller and neater down the row. I did not trust my hands once, and then I did. It took time. It took practice. It took the quiet of a winter with Harold and no one else. Amber, I say. You came into my bedroom with a measuring tape while I was still bruised. You asked me to sign a paper that would let you decide what happens in my apartment. That is not care. She laughs softly. It sounds almost kind to someone who does not know her. It was temporary. You took it the wrong way. Ava stares at her mother. She knows the shapes of her mother's words. She recognizes when they are fitted over something that does not match. A new set of footsteps hits the lower stairs, lighter, quicker. A woman's voice calls up the shaft. Mark. Amber turns her head slowly like a hinge. Paige. Paige Collins comes into view. She has her hair in a low knot and a travel mug in her hand. There is no makeup to shift when her face changes. She takes in the children, the neighbors, the man with the case. She has the kind of eyes that sort before they judge. What is happening? She asks. Her voice is not raised. It lands. Amber speaks first. We drove in. Evelyn will not let us in. She has been acting unstable. Kyle is handling it. Paige looks at Mark. He does not look away. We arranged to sublet, he says. His voice is flat. I thought Mom would be ready. She is not. She asked us to wait. We came anyway. Paige looks up at my window. I meet her gaze. She nods like a person who has already come to a conclusion. She kneels in front of Theo without asking Amber. Buddy, did you have dinner? Theo shakes his head. Lily says snacks in the car. Paige stands. All right, kids, grab your bags. We are going to my place. Amber moves in front of her so fast the travel mug sloshes. No, we are not split up. We are staying together. You are not staying on a stairwell, Paige says. You brought them here to force a door. That's not staying together. That is staging. Amber's mouth opens, closes. She turns to Kyle as if he can stitch this up. He opens his hands and draws his helpful voice back on. Mrs. Collins, he says, we have a situation. We need to avoid inflaming it. You inflamed it when you said capacity, Paige says. You do not get to toss that around because a woman said no to your timeline. She pulls out her phone and starts to tap. I am calling a car. I live in Woodside. The kids can sleep there. With what money, Amber says almost a hiss. Then she hears herself. She lifts her chin. I mean, that is not sustainable. You are earning $1,500 a month from a sublet, Ruth says. You can buy cereal and pay for a taxi. Mark looks like a string that has been pulled too tight for too long. His voice cracks. We can get a hotel. Amber flares. For 3 months. With what? With the rent you are taking, Ruth says again. Amber wheels on her. Stay out of our finances. You put them on the stairs, Ruth says. You made them public. Paige has the phone to her ear. Yes, a minivan on 74th and 37th, 4 kids, 2 adults, front of 52. Ava edges to Theo and slides her hand into his. She does it in a quick little move like a bird dart. He grips back and relaxes his shoulders. Kyle, Amber says, do something. Kyle straightens. He picks up his legal pad as if paper can reverse gravity. Aunt Evelyn, he says, I am asking you formally to allow the parents and the children to enter your unit so the children can be safe. No, I say, my mouth is dry. I swallow and say it again. No. He nods as if I have confirmed his checklist. He turns to Ruth and the neighbors. You heard that refusal. You are witnesses. We heard a woman assert her right to her home, Mrs. Patel says. Mr. Whitaker rubs the beagle's ear. We also heard that there are other safe options for these kids within 10 blocks, he says. Paige pockets her phone. Car is 3 minutes. Amber moves in front of Ava. We are not going to your place. Ava lifts her eyes to her aunt. I want to sleep, Aunt Paige. That takes a little air out of the stairwell. It is the first honest wish said out loud in an hour. Even the buzzing light quiets for a heartbeat. Mark looks at me. He does not say Mom. He says, I am sorry. It is not a petition. It is an offering. There is a honk from the street. Not angry, just present. The minivan waits where the curb cuts into a square of survival. Paige touches her keys in her pocket. The children pick up their bags. Wheels clatter on the rise of the stairs. Amber steps sideways into the narrow of the landing and spreads her arm. You are not taking my kids. Amber plants herself on the narrow landing and throws an arm across the railing. The stairwell tightens. The beagle downstairs gives a single warning huff as if it can smell trouble in the heat. You are not taking my kids, Amber says. Paige does not flinch. She keeps her voice level the way nurses talk when they pull a splinter. Move, Amber. No. Ava stands very straight behind her mother, hand linked with Theo's. Jack lifts his backpack like a shield. Lily presses the cold water bottle to her temple and blinks slow, unfocused blinks. Step aside, ma'am, Mr. Whitaker says. You are blocking egress. That is a fire code problem. Amber laughs once without humor. Report me. I am protecting my children. Ruth shifts off the wall. Protecting them would be a bed. Protecting them would be not dragging them into someone else's home as leverage. Kyle lifts his pad a little higher. Everyone calm down. There is no need to escalate. We can reach a temporary accommodation if the grandmother cooperates. Ruth turns to him and her voice drops until it rings like metal. Counselor, be very careful. One more baseless threat about capacity, and I call the bar to report elder intimidation. I know how to file. I know who to name. Kyle's smile flickers. He turns pages he does not need. There is no intimidation. There is concern. Concern would have looked like soup in silence, Ruth says. We got a legal pad. Amber keeps her body in the way. The stair light hums above her and throws a bright coin down the steps. Sweat has pooled at the hinge of her jaw. She is still careful about her hair. Mark, Paige says, help me get the bags down. We will be back for the last one. Mark looks at the door and then at the minivan horn that calls from the street. He bends, picks up the largest suitcase, and tilts it so the wheels bite the runner. Amber grabs the handle with white knuckles. "Do not you dare," she says. He does not yank. He waits. There's a tight second where their hands both own it. He releases the handle and wraps his grip around the body of the suitcase instead. He lifts wrong with his back because he has never learned how to lift without help. He carries the weight past Amber and down the next step. He breathes with the effort. "Mark," Amber says, "we are a unit." "We are not a battering ram," he says. Ava steps sideways into the little opening that creates and slips by. She keeps Theo's fingers hooked in hers. She does not look at her mother. Jack follows on light feet as if moving gently will make him smaller. Lily hesitates. Amber reaches for her and Lily ducks her head and slides under the arm. "Sweetheart," Amber says, "do not go with her." Lily whispers without lifting her eyes. "I'm tired." The words scratch at the paint of the stairwell. They are small and they mark hard. Paige moves last steady as a metronome. She keeps her travel mug tucked against her ribs. She does not touch Amber. She does not need to. She takes the second suitcase and follows the line of children. Her keys jingle when she hits the first landing. The door downstairs opens to the city heat. "Police," Amber says. "I am calling them now." She does not move from her spot. She lifts the phone to her ear. "I want to report a situation with an unstable elderly woman who is endangering 4 minors and refusing entry to their parents." Mrs. Patel steps forward 1 pace. Her voice is calm and a little dangerous. "I will call the precinct and inform them that neighbors witnessed 2 adults attempting to coerce a 71-year-old woman into signing away rights to her home and threatening her with false reports." Amber lowers the phone 2 inches. She searches for a face that will validate her. Kyle opens his hands again. He aims at neutral. "No one is calling anyone," he says. "We are resolving." "You are staging," Ruth says. Theo turns on the step below and looks up at the door with the peephole that gleams like an eye. His lips wobble. "Grandma," he says. It is not loud. It does not need to be. "Grandma, can I see you?" The sound reaches under my ribs and sits there. I put my palm on the wood. The grain is warm. I open the top sash of the window another inch. Breezy night air slides in with the smell of hot tar and garlic from somebody's open kitchen. "Baby," I say, "Grandma loves you very much. Aunt Paige is going to tuck you in and read you a story. You will be safe. You will sleep. We will see each other soon." "Why cannot we sleep here?" he says. His small voice knots the air. "Because Grandma needs to rest to get better," I say. "And because sometimes grown-ups have to make hard choices." He nods the way a child nods when he knows he cannot change a thing by saying please. Ava squeezes his hand. "Come on," she tells him. "We are going to Aunt Paige's. She has the big pillows." Amber reaches toward Theo. "Theo, do not you go with her." He looks at his mother and at his aunt. He looks at the stair that has been his seat for 2 hours. He picks up his little dinosaur stickered suitcase by himself and follows his sister down the steps. His shoes slap the edge of each riser. It breaks me in a place I cannot reach. The minivan honks twice. Not impatient, just a sound to say I'm here. "Move," Paige says to Amber when she passes again for the last bag. "There is no heat in it. There is only the fact." Amber does not move. Mark brushes by with the suitcase against his thigh. It scrapes the paint. He does not apologize for that. "Do not think this is finished," Amber says, voice tight. "You cannot shut me out. You cannot make me look like a monster to the neighbors. She is scaring the kids. She is not well. We will prove it." Kyle closes his pad. He clicks the latches on the case shut. The sound is crisp, like the idea of order. "Aunt Evelyn," he says, "for your sake, I hope you reconsider. People are watching. This will have consequences." Ruth steps into his space. The pale blue of her blouse makes her look like sky. "You are right. People are watching. If you file anything that smells like guardianship without grounds, I will include your name and your exact quotes in my complaint. I will copy the building association. I will copy the firm. I will copy the committee that reads about predatory practices and elder abuse. Do you understand me?" He exhales without meaning to. He tips his chin. "There is no need to be hostile, ma'am." "You brought a briefcase to a grandmother's door," Ruth says. "Hostility arrived with you." Mark comes back up empty-handed. He looks at Amber. He looks at me, or at the idea of me behind the wood. I am taking them to Paige's, he says. We will talk later. We are talking now, Amber says. We are doing this my way. He does not answer. He goes down again to the street. The stairwell fills with the sound of wheels on concrete and the little chorus of car seat buckles. Amber stands in place as if staying there can hold the night in a shape she prefers. She keeps her eyes fixed on the door. She does not blink. Paige comes up the last time for Theo's stuffed dinosaur and the water bottle Lily forgot on the step. She looks at Amber without anger and without apology. They are already strapped in, she says. You can come with me if you can be quiet. Amber blanches. Why would I go to your place? Paige tips her head. Because the children are there. Amber does not move. Paige tucks the dinosaur under her arm and starts down. She pauses and meets my peephole again. Mrs. Quinn, she says, thank you for opening your window. I nod. It is silly, and it is what I have. The building door opens to the street again. The minivan engine hums. There is a brief exchange that is just air moving as bodies climb in and settle. The Beagle on the first floor stands and shakes so its tags chime. The van pulls away. The sound thins fast in the cross traffic and then is gone. Silence returns like a real thing you can hang on a hook. The stair light steadies. Someone opens a window at the back of the building and the hallway drafts. The night outside smells like rain, even though there is no rain. Amber stares at my door and breathes through her mouth. Her eyes are glassy. She wipes under one and then looks at the finger as if surprised to find wet. You did this, she says into the wood. Remember that. I do not answer. My hand stays on the bolt. Kyle lifts his case. He glances at Ruth and finds no purchase there. He looks up at my window and smooths his tie. Good evening, he says, as though the hour has manners. He starts down. Counselor, Ruth says, and he pauses. I'm writing that report tonight. Use your words carefully when you speak of Evelyn Quinn. They travel. He nods without looking back and keeps moving. Amber stands a few seconds longer and then turns her face away. She goes down slow step by step as if every stair has a question she cannot answer. The building swallows the sound of her heels. Mrs. Patel watches her pass and does not speak. The hall settles. Mr. Whitaker leans down and rubs his dog's ears until they flop. Ruth shifts her tote to her other shoulder and climbs the last 2 steps to my door. She knocks once with the soft side of her fist. Evelyn, she says, it is Ruth. I slide the chain and turn the deadbolt. Wood moves against wood. Ruth comes in on careful feet and closes the door with the kind of touch that respects hinges. Her face is damp. Mine is too. She looks at the quilt and then at me. We do not say much. We sit in the 2 chairs by the small table. I pour water from the kettle and steep new tea. We listen to the apartment breathe. The refrigerator hums and clicks off. The hallway beyond the door is only hallway again and not a stage. The quilt keeps its weight on the sofa and does not try to be anything other than warm. My phone buzzes on the table. A number I do not have saved lights the screen. Paige. The text is short. Kids are safe. They ate. Baths. Lights out. We will talk when you want. Another text, Mark. At a motel near Woodside. I am sorry. I see what I did. I need to fix it. Just me. Ruth touches the rim of her cup. We sit without stirring the messages like they will sink into a place where they belong if we do not jab at them. The tea steam rises and disappears into the quiet. The deadbolt is set. The chain is up. The window above the door is open a sliver to the night, and the night sends in a breath that smells like wet stone. Morning edges in as a pale square on the wall and moves across the quilt like a tide. The apartment has the quiet of a place that remembers its own shape. The kettle ticks as it heats. I rinse the teacup and watch a ribbon of steam drift up and vanish into the ceiling paint. Ruth knocks 2 times the way she always does and comes in when I call. She holds a brown paper bag by the knot of its handles. Scallions poke out like green flags. Farm stand had late peaches, she says. I took the bruised ones. They taste sweeter. We split a peach over the sink and eat it with our hands. Juice tracks our wrists. We let it. Ruth sets her tote on the chair and slides an envelope across the table with 2 fingers. For the wall file, she says. The letter is on heavy paper that likes itself too much. It is not addressed to me. It is addressed to a name printed with pride at the top. I do not read all the words. My eyes catch on the phrase professional admonition and on a sentence about conduct unbecoming. I fold it and tuck it in the blue folder where I keep utility receipts and spare bulb warranties and a tiny photo of Harold in front of the car we drove to Niagara Falls. Ruth wipes her hands on a dish towel and drinks water from the tap. I stopped by Mr. Whitaker's. The beagle is in love with me now because I gave him a corner of pastry. I pour tea and listen to the building breathe. The refrigerator hums and sits. Someone down the hall runs bathwater. A radio plays a tinny ballad that once played on the jukebox in a diner that used to stand where the pharmacy stands now. At noon, I set out 4 bowls and a big one in the middle for popcorn that has not yet been made. I put a deck of cards on the table and smooth the bent corners with my thumb. The apartment looks like itself and a little like a small theater waiting for a familiar show. The knock comes at 2 on the dot. 2 knocks a pause and then another, the way we agreed. Ruth gathers the peach pits and slips out my back door with a wink. I open because I choose to. Mark stands there with hair that needs a comb, a paper sack under his arm, and a fresh tired on his face that is less heavy than the other kind. His shirt is crisp. He looks at the threshold as if it is an ocean he must not cross without permission. "Hi," he says. "Hi," I say. The kids fill the hall behind him in a little tilt of anticipation. Ava taller already. Jack Sprouting elbows Lily with a bandage on her knee. She wants to show Theo bouncing on his toes and holding a drawing tube like a baton. They smell like outside and bus seats and the sugar of something they ate without a napkin. "Hands," I say, and the little ones hold theirs out. I squirt a drop of soap into each palm and we lean over the sink and make lather into shapes. Theo turns his into a mountain and roars. Lily blows a bubble and watches it lift and pop. "Do we take our shoes off?" Ava asks, already undoing her laces. "Yes," I say. Shoes go in a line by the mat, marked straight, toes to the wall. They make the line and adjust it 3 times until it pleases them. The sight of it pleases me more than it should. "Popcorn," Jack says, pointing at the bowl. "After cards," I say. "Dealer calls." We sit with our knees around the little table. Mark takes the chair by the window and rests the paper sack on his thighs. He does not touch the table until I gesture. He does not look at the door. He looks at me when he needs to look at something. He is careful with his gaze. "Before we start," he says. He opens the sack and pulls out an envelope and a receipt folded around it. He sets it near my elbow. 200. He does not say for what. He does not promise more. He lays the paper on the wood and lets it sit. I slide it into the blue folder when the kids are not watching. The physical weight is small and the other kind is not. We play go fish and cheat gently for the younger pair. Theo declares every pair twins and taps them together like he is introducing new friends. Ava develops a system that will serve her in some room one day, where systems are coins you can spend. Lily wins a hand by accident and tries to hide her smile under her bangs. The popcorn pops in the pot in bursts that sound like writing. Butter melts and coats the room in a warm smell that sets the small animals in all of us at ease. We eat from the big bowl and watch an old animated movie where colors are flatter than the world now, and the songs have places to breathe between lines. Theo leans against my leg and falls into the kind of nap that unfurls the body from the inside out. Lily and Jack argue about whether a fox can be kind and stay a fox. Ava gets up quietly and goes to my desk. She pulls a folded paper from her pocket and lays it under the desk lamp like it is a plant that needs light. When the credits roll, she brings the paper to me. It is lined and torn from a spiral. She has decorated the edges with little squares that look like the quilt if the quilt wore a school uniform. "Can I leave this here?" she says. I smooth it with my palm. The letter is careful in the way of 10-year-olds who want to be 11. It says thank you in 3 places and uses the word person exactly once where it matters. My chest does a small thing I do not let show on my mouth. I fold the paper and slide it into the book that lives on my end table. The one with the garden on the cover that Harold gave me because he liked the title and never read a page. "Yes," I say, "you can leave it here." We clean up like people who know how to put a room back. Mark rinses the big bowl and does not try to dry it when I say I will do that part. The kids fetch their shoes and line them again when they mess the line by putting them on. At the door, Mark touches the frame with the back of his knuckles, the way you touch a dog you are trying to make your friend again. "We will go now," he says. "Thank you for coming on time," I say. He nods. He looks at the bowl on the console table where a set of spare keys lives among rubber bands and a stamp that still says "Forever" with a flag. He does not reach into the bowl. He does not look at me to see if I will. Next Saturday, Ava says more statement than question. "Yes," I say, "next Saturday." They walk out in single file with the solemn burst of joy children put on at the end of a reasonable day. I close the door and set the bolt. I leave the chain down because the minute they walk away, I want the breeze again. That night, I cook something simple with an onion that sings when it hits oil and a handful of spinach that surrenders to heat. Ruth comes back with a paperback she wants to discuss and a cherry pie from the bakery because it was on sale if you asked. We eat 2 small slices at the table. We wrap another for tomorrow. The radio across the hall plays a baseball game where the announcer has the same voice as the one from when I was a girl in a different borough. He names the wind as if it is a player. In the week, Susan sends a text that is not polite because it does not need to be. It is true. She says the children are steady and that they are learning the words for what to ask and when. She says if Amber tries to spin, she straightens. She sends a picture of Theo asleep on her sofa with his dinosaur under his chin. There is a cereal bowl on the table with 1 stripe of milk left. It is a kitchen that looks like it serves breakfast and not parties. I see Amber once on the street in the middle of an afternoon when the shadows are short. She is holding a coffee she has not sipped. Her face is bare. For a second, something like the person she could be if she abandoned all the wrong tools looks out. She does not speak. She passes. I breathe in and let her go like a cloud that does not promise rain. The stairs stop being a stage. They are only stairs again. People say good morning and carry laundry baskets and hold elevator doors and knock on walls when the music is too loud, and open windows when frying makes the place smell like a deli. The light above my landing still hums before it steadies, and that sound is my favorite now because it says everything is clicking into place. On a Thursday, Mark comes by alone and sits with me in the coffee shop on the corner where the floor tiles are cracked like ice. He keeps his hands around a paper cup and stares at the sugar packets like they spell something. He says the words he needs to say and none he does not. He takes notes in a cheap notebook while I speak. He looks at exactly my face when he agrees and at exactly the table when something stings. He walks me back to my door and leaves me at it without leaning toward the knob. 3 months becomes a season, and the season turns. The quilt hangs over the back of the sofa when the window opens to the night, and the night sends in its long, cool scent. The blue bowl on the console holds its small collection. Spare keys with a tag that says Mark, a rubber band, 2 paper clips, a receipt for peaches that stained our wrists one good morning. At 2 on a Saturday, the knock comes. I turn the deadbolt and feel the clean action of the lock. It is smooth already from use and from being chosen. I open the door and let the people I love cross the line because I asked them to. Behind them, the hallway is only the hallway. The light hums and sets. The apartment holds itself in the way a place does when it is understood. I set the keys in the bowl and watch them settle against the ceramic. They do not make much sound. I like the sound they make. Thank you so much for listening to today's story. If this story resonated with you or made you reflect, I'd love to hear your thoughts, so feel free to share them in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss the next story. I'll see you next time as we continue exploring more journeys and lessons together.